Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am Dazza. This is the Story Pod, and today, one of my favourites, to be honest. And I never knew he was a Liverpool supporter, but I've been into the dance music for I'm 53 this year, so it's probably going on like 36, 37 years. So I'm, chuffed a bit to get this lad on, but it's Barry Ashworth from the Dub Pistols. Barry, welcome. Really chuffed a bit that you're on, and I'm chuffed a bit that you're a Liverpool supporter as well.
Yeah, no, I mean it's religion, isn't it? It's Liverpool. I mean, as you get older, you get slightly less emotional about it all, but growing up it was very much, I guess, like your horoscope almost. It was like your moods were definitely tied into the results and the way your team have been performing. Do you know what I mean? And I used to ruin my week if we were bad. Do you know? So yeah, it's football is a religion. Do you know what I mean? And being part of a Liverpool family is massive, and I guess it's been something we've been very lucky over the years, because I'm 57, like you said. So I went through that first big, massive, when we were very, very, very successful before the Graham Souness era. Do you know what I mean? So, which was kind of growing up in London. That was my family are all Scousers, which is why I'm a Liverpool supporter. The first thing that we were done as a kid, my nan would turn up at the hospital and you were put into a red shirt. Do you know what I mean? It's that. She was fanatical about Liverpool. So all my brothers, all my family, everybody, there is no choice. I think my mum's been married 3 times, and 2 of the divorces were over rows with my nan and her partners over football. I couldn't bear it.
Any blues in the family?
We got one. I got one uncle who's a toffee, but most of the family are all Reds.
Good. So going back, I know we talked a little bit earlier. For both of us, our memories are pretty hazy. I remember, going to Anfield when I was 6 with my granddad. So God bless him that he took me. So I know you're hazy on your first match. What do you remember? As growing up as a kid, watching Liverpool.
Well, just that we were hugely successful back in those days.
Yeah,
it was literally like non-stop going on from Kevin Keegan, Shanks, Paisley. It just went on and on and on. So. Which I took a lot of stick for, because obviously I grew up in London, and people couldn't get their heads around the fact that I did support Liverpool, and they just thought it was a glory hunting thing. Do you know what I mean? That you were just supporting a team that were massively successful. So it kind of come as a bit of a relief when although not that much of a relief, when we wasn't so successful for such a long time. Do you know what I mean? It was painful, but it kind of, at least you weren't getting stuck with a glory hunting label, because there was those desolate years, and the wait for the Premiership title just seemed like forever, eh?
Yeah, well, I mean, back then, it's not as prevalent now. Your kids wear all the jerseys. Back then, I don't think I ever really saw that many kids wearing jerseys unless they were homemade.
Yeah, right.
Scarves.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, I used to go. We used to always go home regularly because my family. Still got a lot of family, still have now, that are in that are living in Liverpool. And so my grandmother, she was just passionate about the city, and so we would at least once a month, possibly more, go back see her mother, my great grandmother, and that's when I started to get taken to the matches with my great uncle Ernie, my nan's sister's husband. He used to take me to the games every week, and I used to go stand in the kids' pen. I mean, it was mind blowing being a kid. Going to Anfield, and obviously you got there so much earlier back those days. Do you know what I mean? It seems like now you'd probably be there at midday waiting for the 3 o'clock kickoff. Do you know what I mean? And I used to love it. I mean, it's just standing on the Kop as a kid was just mind blowing. And I used to love all the surges, even growing up, going through the teenage bit. Do you know what I mean? It was just like for me, there's never been anywhere that I've ever gone to witness that. When Anfield's rocking, it is rocking. Do you know what I mean? That atmosphere is just something else. And the Kop back in the days, before seating came into it all, was just next level.
Yeah, it is the church, isn't it? I mean, but back then you were just, they'd say 50,000, but there'd be a hell of a lot more than 50,000.
Well, everyone used to bunk in, didn't they? You could just slide over the turnstiles and you were in. I mean, it was packed.
When it was easy to get in then, no, it's hard to get in now with all the, the app and stuff. But just getting your mates to kind of pile in, and then you kind of go under the turnstile. Yeah, it was great.
Plus, people used to let you in as well. What Scousers are like, they'll get in anywhere. So, it was fantastic times, fantastic memories. And a lot of the players, again, because like I said, my family around Kirby, so I can't remember where my nan lived, which was just not far down the road from there, but a lot of the players used to drink in the pub around the corner, so quite often see them, so that was always a bit special. So obviously when it's not so much now, but back in those days there was a big drinking culture in Football A.
Mm-hmm. And smoking as well.
And smoking,
can't get away with that.
Not anymore. I mean, sports science is what it is now, and we know what we know now. But you got to think. It just amazes me that a professional footballer could do what they did. In terms of partying and drinking and God knows what, and then go out and play the way they did. Do you know what I mean? It's like, wow. I mean, as a musician, I struggle with it now.
Well, you see, even like what was it, Istanbul? 2005. You saw it on the AC Milan bench. There was one of the players smoking. I mean, you just would not see that now, would you?
No,
it's down to exact science.
No, the way that the food, the everything, the way that you are now. I mean, they literally are, like you say, the sports science and the way that you've got to maintain your body to be at the top of your game is totally different. But I mean, every aspect of football is different, whether it's the pitches, because you remember the old pitches that they used to play on. Do you know what I mean? Never had a blade of grass on them. Do you know what I mean? It's like how Liverpool used to be able to play that passing game that they did on some of those pitches were just mind blowing.
Yeah, they'd bring in the sand, wouldn't they, from Thornby Beach? Yeah, incredible. I mean, so
orange ball in the snow.
Yeah. I mean, again, there was no underground heating, nothing.
No, that was a massive advancement, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you wouldn't see any footballer wearing gloves or a snud.
No.
Football's changed so much. I mean, I miss the tackling. You can't barely tackle anymore.
I mean, you want to talk about the tackling, which was brutal, absolutely brutal back in the days. Do you know what I mean? Like Chopper Harris and, you like see your Tommy Smith and God knows who, even Souness, do you know what I mean? Who was an animal. You got to remember as well, they only had 11 players.
Yeah.
No, not 11, 12 players. Only had one sub. Do you know what I mean? So, you couldn't go off injured even if you broke your leg. Do you know what I mean? You've only got to see them now, and it's like, that's it, they're off. After players, it's hard enough to try and get them on the field now. Psychologically, they're injured. Mm-hmm. And the size of the squads now are unbelievable. When was it? It used to be a 13-man squad for most of the season, I think, back in the day.
Yeah, on a one bucket and a sponge. I still have no idea what was in that water. Because it seemed to fix broken legs.
Right. The old Albasol, do you know what I mean? But yeah, it did. And those players played through it and they dare not play. They played with injuries because they were frightened of getting dropped from the team, So I mean, I just been reading Quiet Genius. You know, the Bob Paisley book. You know, is probably the most underrated manager in football history, and yet he's probably the most successful. If you look at his time period and the amount of trophies he picked up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know, everybody looks back and it's Shankly, you know, that shines. But Bob won loads, and I don't think he gets the just deserve that.
I think it's, you know, again, reading the book and, you know, reflecting on it afterwards, you know, I think a lot of it was because obviously Shankly was a very different kind of character. Do you know what I mean? Shankly, you know, he was the foundation of that club and taking that club to where it was. And he was very but he was very outspoken. Do you know what I mean? He was complete, you know, very much a socialist, suited the Liverpool people down to the ground, said all the right things. Paisley was totally the opposite. It was, reading the book, it becomes really apparent that, you know, he really struggled to hold a conversation. Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, words didn't come easy to him. You know, so he wasn't that flamboyant, outgoing character. He just being that cardigan of his. Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, but you know, the thing that proves what a great manager he was how he kept on rebuilding that team. You know, when he was winning the European Cups and that, there was only a couple of players left from that Shankly era.
Who was your favourite player back then? I mean, I always ask, like, who's your poster boy back then?
I mean, obviously, my first hero, and I remember crying when he left, was obviously Kevin Keegan. You know, that was been my age where I would have really been, you know, and when he left the team, I literally cried. As I was a young kid, and I thought that was it. But you know, like everybody who supports Liverpool, whoever watched Kenny Dalglish play, and not just play, but then obviously everything he went on to do for the club post Hillsborough. You know, Kenny Dalglish to me will always be, you know, King Kenny. He's my number one without a shadow of a doubt. Well, John Barnes, you know, Barnesy, you want to talk about players. I mean, we've been blessed with so many fantastic players. Watching John Barnes play was unbelievable. You know, the list just goes on. But King Kenny, if I had to pick one person, would be King Kenny.
Yeah, I think, you know, after Keegan left, I was the same. Keegan was my, you know, poster boy. And when he left, I was devastated. But then Liverpool have always had somebody come in, haven't they? You know, Owen left, Fowler left, you know, Torres left, Suarez left. We've always had a player come in and just take that spot and take it to another level. That's what I admire about, you know, the scouting. You know, to get Kenny in, the first time I saw him play, you could just tell he was different.
Yeah, I mean, when he scored in, I can't remember how many minutes of his debut. Do you know what I mean? And then didn't stop scoring. But it was just the way that it was the way he played, wasn't it? It was his vision. It was the way that he could just read the game. You know, I don't think he particularly looked like the fastest player on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? But he could just read, and the way he could play in other players, you know, it was just incredible. He was just at another level. Do you know what I mean? His mind was totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just, you know, you think, you know, I saw the news of like Gerrard made a turnaround and might be going to Saudi now. You just think with Kenny, you know, he was a Liverpool legend, and going from player to managerial, you know, status for Liverpool was just, that's where he should be, you know.
Well, I think the thing that really helped Kenny make the transformation into management so easy, or look so easy and effortlessly, was the fact that the backroom team was still the same. You know, it'd always been the same, from Shanks through to Paisley to Moran to Fagan to Roy Evans. So he had those core people still round him that had been with that team forever. So he had a lot of help. Whereas I think, you know, Gerrard at the moment, you know, going into management, he's got to find his team. Do you know what I mean? He's got to find that staff that are back round. But back in those days, Liverpool had a consistency that the whole team, you know, nobody just came in and it was all the staff were already there. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now you need, you know, when managers come in, they bring an army of people with them.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So any cup finals you went to?
Yeah, I went to the League Cup final recently against City. We lost. I went to the Newcastle FA Cup final. We won 3-0. I didn't make the last. I had tickets for last European Championship, but we were on tour and I couldn't get the plane. The journey's over, so I had to miss that one. I've been to a few. I've been to a few Milk Cup finals and a few FA Cup finals. I've been lucky enough. But only lost that one. Only lost the City one on penalties. And I thought we were going to get trashed that day anyway. And actually, that second half was amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. City are just a juggernaut, aren't they? I hate them.
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? You got to love and hate them. You know, I mean, I've been really vocal about, you know, FSG. And, you know, I just felt like last year we didn't, you know, I got really upset when we didn't do anything in the transfer market. I know we signed Nunes, but I just felt like, you know, everybody knew that our midfield was aging, do you know what I mean? And to not replace it. And I think there was a lot of different reasons why we didn't succeed and we were so bad last year. You know, we'd come out of that full season where we'd played every game going, you know, we could have been the most incredible team of all time if we'd won all those fours, and we were one game away from being that. I think that took a massive toll. I think the World Cup coming so quickly, the catch up with COVID and the games coming so fast. I just think, you know, we needed to strengthen and we didn't strengthen. And I was quite sort of angry about that. And it just seemed like the injuries we picked up this year, and we just never got going. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, it just looked like all the players looked like they were, you know, they looked like they had fatigue. You couldn't believe that it was the same team that had been playing just a few months before that were competing for everything. It just, for most of this season, last season.
Yeah, they look a bit spent, but, you know, having a small pre-season wasn't good, you know, and
losing to Man United 4-0, and it just never got better after that, did it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think the club got it wrong going to Singapore. I think it should never have happened, and they're doing it again this pre-season. At least they're doing the friendlies in Germany first, and then they'll go to Singapore, I think, for one match. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I guess it's like, you know, for your side as well, being a musician, maybe getting like a platinum record, what, you know, you're close to it.
Yeah.
Then your next album just bombs. That's how I think Liverpool were. We were so close to getting that platinum record, and then
I think it'd have been quadruple platinum, wouldn't it? Do you know?
Yeah.
It would have been like, you know, and it was an amazing season. It was an incredible season. But, you know, the thing with City is they're relentless, and you just got to look, you know, they've got a squad that could finish 3 of their teams. They could have 3 teams, fill 3 teams, and they'll finish in the top 5. 3 of them would finish in the top 5. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that is how good they are. But that shows how good Klopp is. Now, when Klopp first arrived, I didn't realise just how good he was. I thought he was a bit of a cheerleader, ignorantly. Do you know what I mean? I just thought, like, you know, he's a lot of fist pumping and chest beating, and, you know. But I've read a lot about him, you know, and through his early careers, and I realised he's actually a way more astute manager than he's given credit for, and just what he's achieved with that team and the budget that he had, he's, you know, he's up there with one of the greatest managers of all time in my eyes. Obviously, I'm biased. Yeah. I can't imagine the day that he leaves. Even if we have a bad season again this year, I wouldn't call him out, you know. But I don't think that's going to happen. I was really worried. I mean, I know you contacted me this week, and I'm sure, I don't know whether it's because of Twitter or because I was having a meltdown midweek. Do you know what I mean? I was getting a bit emotional when I was watching all these other teams signing £100 million players now, and we hadn't signed anybody at that stage. And I was like, right, that's it. I've had enough. Do you know what I mean? We've got McAllister, and the signs were like, that was all we're going to get. And don't get me wrong, that's a fantastic signing. But for me, we still need, you know, I know that the lad, is it Zablowski? I don't know how to pronounce his name.
I just say Dominic.
Dominic. So you know, that's cheered me up endlessly. I think if we can get a right back in, I know that sounds really weird, just so that we can get, because I think Trent's going to be a revelation in midfield. Do you know what I mean? He started to show the signs, and I think once that properly clicks, you know, the way that boy can pass around, and the fact that he, you know, he's come from defence, so he understands how to defend. I don't think he's the greatest defender in the world, and he never had to be before. Do you know what I mean? But he got found out this year because of our weakness in midfield. But I think moving him into the middle is a stroke of genius, and I think it's going to pay off massively. Yeah, but I do think we are missing a right back now.
I saw a couple of your tweets. You were in meltdown mode, but so was, you know, 60% of Twitter. I just think like I'm not neither FSG in or out. You know, I'm just Liverpool Football Club. I just think we.
Well, if I'm being honest, they haven't. You can't. I mean, like I said, yes, I was having a meltdown because I was like, oh God, we're not going to spend any money again, and all the money we have spent in the past is because we've managed to sell a players at a ridiculous fee, and they're, like you said, what a fantastic scouting squad. We've gone out and found incredible players, but like I said, I was in meltdown mode. I mean, fair play to them. They've redeveloped the ground. We have come with loads of success. Maybe I'm just being a spoiled brat. Do you know what I mean? And I'm always a bit, and obviously, where do you want to go? We're not going to be able to compete financially with Man City. The same thing's going to happen at Newcastle. They're going to get strong. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, these are state-owned clubs, and it's going to get more and more. I've always been a little bit dubious of Americans in football anyway. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean to be dissing anybody from the US, but it is a business venture for them. Do you know what I mean? Which it should be. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, as a fan, I'm not interested. I just want the best players, and I want to be able to compete. And it just breaks your heart, you know, because we're Liverpool Football Club, and we're one of the biggest and most successful clubs in the world. And they bought this club for, like, you know, I don't know how many hundreds of millions, but they're trying to sell a small share of it for 4 or 5 billion. Do you know what I mean? So if that's what the club's valued at, then you can raise some money like the Glazers have. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be like the Glazers at all, because they are a proper bunch of wrong-uns. Yeah. But you can invest in that team. Do you know what I mean? And we should be able to compete because we've earned the money. Do you know, when you've won as many trophies as we have over the last 4 or 5 seasons, we've generated some money.
Yeah, I just think with FSG, though, Barry, I think when we have a bad season, it's all FSG's fault. But then when we've won all these trophies, that isn't FSG part of the club. So you've got to say, you know, hats off to them. But yeah, you know, it was frustrating where I think 2019, when we won the Champions League, we should have bought a few players then. You know, just like City do. You know, Pep's ruthless. You know,
I mean, again, going back to, going back to quoting Bob Paisley, you've got to keep building your team. You know, this team has been hugely successful, massively successful, massively overachieved. And and I'm not blaming. Like I said, yes, I might be going a little bit off on FSG, but actually, I don't think they've done a bad job. But you do need, as you just said, to keep on strengthening from a position of strength. What we've let this team do is they've been successful, but they're now an aged team, which they're now addressing. Do you know what I mean? So I'm pleased with that. If we had this conversation on Monday, then we've been having a very different conversation. I might not be quite so relaxed about it.
You think Klopp's though has been a bit stubborn though, you know, with players like, you know, Milner, with you know, Henderson, like he's kept a hold of players like Keita and Ox should have been gone 2 seasons ago.
I think Naby, absolutely. Ox, I don't think we could offload him. Do you know what I mean? I don't think every time he came up to the sort of transfer window, he was on the injury list. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's such a shame about Ox because before he got injured, you know, playing for England, he was mind blowing. Do you know what I mean? He was electric, and then he got injured, and then he never ever recovered. And then, but like you said, yes, we kept hold of him probably 5 seasons too long. I don't even know how long he was there for, but he just seems to have been there forever. But I honestly don't think we had a chance to sell him because he was always injured in that transfer window. Naby Keita, another one, you know, absolutely. Milner, to be honest, you know, even last season, you know, he won all those trophies with us. He was a massive part of that team. The man never did anything wrong when he came on, or if he played. Didn't matter what position he was playing in. Do you know what I mean? He was a machine. Do you know what I mean? His fitness and everything. So, you know, I have to tip my hat off to Milner because I have no idea how that man's managed to do it. You know, he's won everything. He's I don't know. I think this was the year to get rid of him. But even last year, the things that were going wrong weren't his fault. When he came on, or whether he was asked to do something, he put a shift in. Do you know what I mean? Our problems just stem from we had ways. You know, everybody. You know, losing Diaz for ages, Jota for ages, Thiago we couldn't keep on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? It just felt like right through the spine of the team, we had so many injuries and we didn't have the cover.
Yeah, you know? That's the thing. You know, I've had chats with my mates. Like we just seem to pick up these minor muscle injuries, but then what's supposed to be 2-3 weeks out ends up being a few months. Like Canote, same thing, was out a while. Matip, same thing.
Well, we seemed to have a massive problem last year, didn't we? That everyone kept getting injured in training, and you've got to look at it. Is it the training methods? Is something wrong? Was I also right in that we didn't have a proper physio for a long time, or something? There was some of the medical team weren't there. I don't know what was going on.
We didn't have a club doctor for 6-7 months.
I mean,
at a club like Liverpool, like that.
How is that even possible? Do you know what I mean? But there was definitely something fundamentally wrong with, I don't know whether it's the training methods, the pitch, but I don't know what was going on because the amount of injuries and the way that we're picking them up, and they were all similar injuries, was just like, this can't be a coincidence. Yes, you can blame the long season we had, then obviously straight into the World Cup. So none of these players have had time to rest. But, you know, you could say that about all the other clubs, but they didn't seem to be picking up the injuries like we were.
Yeah, it was
hopefully it's behind us.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, it was like every other week though for us. And I think that stop, start season just, you know, Klopp said it before, consistency.
Yeah.
You know, like you saw it in the last 10, 11 matches of last season. That was the Liverpool team that we all know, you know.
But they still, I mean, Jota started to look great. You know, it's absolutely chucking it down here right now. I don't know if you can hear on my roof. But they still didn't look great. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. We ground out some results towards the end of last season, and we were, you know, unlucky not to end up getting up into the top 4. But it just felt like we just run out of track to it. You know, it was one of those. It was too much too late. It was too little too late. So I think if we can get a good decent pre-season, if we can get those players that we want in early and get off to a good start, then I'm fully optimistic. Whether or not we're good enough to win the league, you know, City always take some beating. I don't like the fact we have to go away at Chelsea first game. Do you know what I mean? Because you really, you know, confidence is everything, and you need to get off. You need to get up to it. You know, I think the start of our campaign this next year looks pretty tricky, and you need to get that decent run together, get your confidence up, and start playing. So I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic.
Yeah, well, we'll probably, hopefully, I won't see you on Twitter in like mid-October, like screaming at everyone.
I know. Sometimes I just, you know, I've melted. The worst thing is, like, you know, quite often when I'm watching the game, and I mean, technology being where I've even had laptops on stage with me, so I can watch the game while we're performing, and suddenly I'll go off and do a cartwheel, and the crowd have no idea what's going on. Do you know what I mean? I remember watching. I think we were playing Arsenal once. I think it was Champions League. And like I said, half the band are Arsenal and half the band are Liverpool. We were watching it on we were watching that on the laptop while we were playing, and I was just going mental. So yeah, you know, I'm looking forward. I hate this time, even though for me it's the busiest and best time as a musician because it's festival season. I hate not having football in my life. Do you know what I mean? You know, I live for match days.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, after last season, I was done. I was like, I don't want, and that's hard to do when you have a football podcast. You don't really want to talk about Liverpool. I was just like, I'm done. But now that we've got a few players in, you know, I'm seem to be re-energized, and I'm like, I'm looking forward to it because I still think there's about maybe at least two players coming in still. I think there's got to be.
I think there's got to be. I mean, I'm really. I mean, you look at our forward line. Do you know what I mean? That's incredible. And you know, Diaz, Jota, you know, Nunes. I don't think Gakpo. Wow, Nunes. I know he didn't pull up trees last year. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't look composed in front of goal, but he did get himself in positions that it was just that lack of composure at the last minute that let him down, and he was a bit headless chicken at times. But I do think he'll come good. I think he'll adapt, and I've got a feeling he'll come good. Whether or not he's actually going to be in that starting 11, I can't see it. When you look at Gakpo, Jota, and Salah, where's he going to go into that? Do you know what I mean? So he's got a tough season ahead of him, but I'm expecting him to come good.
Yeah, I think, you know, he's a work in progress, and you know, Klopp's even said that. You know, he's gone away and he's learned a few more Scouse words, which will help him. But like you said, though, there is a player there because he does get in these positions. But I think the price tag and Haaland coming at the same time.
Yeah,
you know, there's a lot of pressure on him. Haaland he's a robot. He is. I don't believe he's human. He's just unbelievable. I hate.
I'm really hoping someone takes him out.
Oh man, wouldn't that be if he gets an injury? Yeah, I mean, I don't wish that upon anyone, but yeah.
No, I do. No, I don't in real terms, but obviously as a Liverpool supporter, of course I do. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's always going to be tough for City. It's going to, you know, and then Arsenal have strengthened. But I think Arsenal, don't get me wrong, you know, you finish where you deserve to finish. But I honestly think that they've had their moment, even though they've signed some great players. Declan Rice is a great player. You know, Saka's a great player. I think that they had a moment last year where everybody else wasn't very good. You know, your Chelsea weren't there. You know, Liverpool weren't there. Spurs were Spursy. You know, I think Newcastle were just going to go from strength to strength because of that money they got. I think, you know, United again, I don't know. Again, I think they were just lucky that Liverpool were as bad as they were. I don't think they particularly looked great. And I'd like to see them have a terrible season.
I don't understand United. I really don't, because, I mean, they probably bought really well with Casemiro, probably maybe the signing of the season for them. But still, I thought they were shite, and they still got in the top four. That's what, you know.
But that's what I'm going harking back. That it was so bad last year that they could actually get in there being that bad. Do you know what I mean? You know, shows you how terrible we were. Do you know what I mean? You know, and we absolutely battered them. Do you know what I mean? It's like so I think we're going to be top two. And obviously I hope we can win it. But you know, winning that, it's just such a long season, and just because of the squad that City can always muster, and Pep's obviously next level in terms of management. But I think we'll be up there. I think we'll be there or thereabouts. We're certainly not going to have the same season we had this year.
Nah. So how's the banter then in the band?
How's the what?
The banter.
Do you know what? It's actually all right. I mean, we actually want each other's teams to do well, believe it or not. There's more bantering with other people from other bands. Do you know what I mean? That you tend to give it to. But as a band, we sort of like want each other's teams to do well. Like I was pleased for Sean because, you know, he's a massive Arsenal supporter, and it's been miserable for them for quite some time. So I was glad that they finally, you know, could put a run together. I mean, they went all Spursy themselves at the end and blew it. They absolutely blew it. Do you know what I mean? It was theirs. It was theirs. And so I'm a bit gutted for them. But I do think that that's it. I think that, you know, I think they've had their moment and they've missed it. Do you know what I mean? I think we're back, and I think City are going to be there. And I think Newcastle will finish above them this year.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think it'll be, you know, 1 and 2 for City and us. Whether, you know,
I mean, don't get
challenge 100%. I do.
I mean, a player who impressed me. I mean, a massive Harvey Elliott fan. I think he's got a fantastic future. So, you know, it's great that he's now going to have the support from the players that are coming in. Which means we haven't got to rely on him so much, I don't think. But I think he's got a bright future. Curtis Jones, I wasn't sure. You know, I was really sort of like, I don't think he's going to make it, you know. But then he came in and had a good, you know, back end of the season. So, you know, there's two great players there, and I'm really excited about Ben Doak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He's what, 17?
Yeah, but you know, if you're good enough, you're old enough. Do you know what I mean? You know, Rooney proved that, eh? So I hope he gets a bit more game time this year. I'm excited about seeing him because what I have seen is mind blowing.
Yeah, I think, you know, get the young lads in the League Cup, maybe some of the early rounds of the Europa League. But yeah, I mean that's one of the many things that I love about Klopp. He gives these youngsters a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I don't like one thing that really upsets me about I don't think it helps development when you change half the team or more of the team. Do you know what I mean? It's like I think the way to develop players is to put them in there with experienced players, maybe 3 or 4, rather than do the wholesale change. Where I don't think that, you know, because you learn by being around these fantastic players. Do you know what I mean? And what they're doing. So, and I always think it's a risky move when you suddenly just throw 8 kids in. Do you know what I mean? I would rather they were bedded in with a team and then we got the win, and then all right, then start bringing some more of them on, rather than doing that whole gambling thing. Mm-hmm. I don't like losing anything. I don't want to lose the toss. Do you know?
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I want everything to go our way. So, speaking of the band Dub Pistols, you got a brand new album that just came out in March on Geffen Records, Frontline. You've been in the game for what, 20 odd years now? 20
with this band I started 26, 27 years ago now. You know, I started running clubs and putting on nights in 1987 after coming back from Ibiza. So I had sort of strong roots in the club game, I guess. And then I start, you know, when the Happy Mondays and the Stone Roses and that come around, that's when I decided to be going into that sort of band movement. And then the Big Beat thing came along, and I got into that because I was bored of the generic house music that was happening at the time. So that kind of was where I sort of took off when the Chemical Brothers and Fatboy Slim and that, and we were doing like the Heavenly Social and places like that. Then we went to America, signed a deal, and that's when it started to fall more into being a band and more about writing songs.
Yeah, it's you know, I look at your discography on it's crazy. You're up to your 9th album. I mean, do you still kick yourself just going, you know, I've made a career as a musician? Because, you know, did you DJ before starting?
Yeah, I mean that's how it started. Dub Pistols was never supposed to be a band. It was me making, like I said, big beat, breakbeat records, whatever you want to call them, and DJ Cannon fodder. Do you know what I mean? And then we had a hit with Cyclone. That was the first big breakthrough track for us. That got picked up by Tony Hawk's too. That's when everything totally changed. And then we did a $1.5 million deal with Geffen in America. Jimmy Irvine signed us. But I mean, you know, for a lot of our career, we always had the self-destruct button on. Do you know what I mean? It was like, you know, just like every band, you know, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And, you know, we tried every which way to ruin our own career. We've grown up a bit now. Do you know what I mean? We've all, you know, life's changed. Your things, everything changes in life, and now it's more about, you know, performance and making sure you just do everything the best you can and put the best show on you can. But yeah, of course, I feel lucky to have had a career. I mean, I call us the most successfully unsuccessful band of all time, because we're more of a cult thing now, I guess, than going to be the next big thing.
Well, I mean, you've got to work with, you know, some amazing vocalists, but, you know, one that sticks out for me is the great late Terry Hall, you know, and, you know, he was a United fan as well, wasn't he? Did you have some banter with Terry?
Yeah, I mean, Terry's very hard to have banter with. I mean, Terry, you know, one of my dearest, a dear friend, massive loss. And he was actually my hero growing up. So to get to work with him was just like the, you know, massive honour. And through him, I met Linville. But yeah, he was United through and through. I mean, he had the most driest sense of humour. You know, he could cut you down and you wouldn't even know it. You know, it was, and he would always drape his Man United flag round somewhere. So yeah, no, it was, yeah, we'd have banter, but at the time when we were working together, United was still a good football team. Do you know what I mean? So it was weird because I think I got a call the night Terry died from Linville. Linville was in Jamaica, and then he called me and said that Terry was about to pass away, and I knew he was ill, but I didn't realise it was kind of like that serious. And apparently he watched the match and then passed away afterwards. So he's still got to go through. He's still got to watch his team, and then he left us sadly. But his last words to Linville were love, 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 because Terry was always a people's champion. He always championed the you know, the people who needed him most. You know, the most you know, yeah, just a great man.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost Town to me is one of my favourite tracks ever. It just had everything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that
totally different. The specials were totally different from anything I'd ever, you know, got brought up in. I mean, 70s for me was just listening to, you know, me dad's stuff, Black Sabbath, and just Thin Lizzy, just hard rock stuff. So the 80s, obviously, you know, was cheesy pop music, but then I heard the specials, and that kind of changed the way I thought about music.
Well, I mean, I had a similar sort of story. I mean, my you know, first love were like, you know, the Clash. Then I got into the specials, and that took me down to sort of like, you know, looking more at Jamaican music and Studio One and, you know, the Coxsone Sound and things like that. But it was because of the specials, and they were really first racial band around. You know what I mean? So there was a massive change. And like you said, going back to the 70s. You know, Thatcher was in power. Everything was going. It kind of feels a bit like that now. You know, with the Tory government that are in charge right now. You know, they've absolutely fleeced everybody. interest rates have gone through the roof. You know, it just feels like the whole country's on the edge at the moment. So we really are back to those times. But that breaking through that period, especially being in Liverpool, it had a massive effect on Liverpool, the Thatcher government, because they neglected it. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, the Scousers, as you know, are very much, a Labour stronghold. Do you know what I mean? It's like there'd never be Margaret Thatcher would never be working there. The things that she'd done to all the strikers, was just absolutely horrendous. So there's no love for her in a Dub Pistols camp.
Good. Yeah. I mean, hate to say it, for anyone, but good she's 6 feet under, hopefully 12 feet under. But yeah, I mean,
I think that Boris Johnson and I don't want to get political on the show about football, but I think Boris Johnson and this Tory government have fleeced this country for the last 13 years and lined their pockets, and that quasi budget and taking the interest rates up and leaving and Brexit. It's just been an absolute disaster. So I can't wait to see the back of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into a little more, happy times. Festival season. I mean, you got Beat Herder coming up, which it just looks amazing. I mean, what's your festivals looking like this year?
I mean, we're very lucky that we tend to play probably 2 or 3 festivals every week. You know what I mean? So I took a year off Glastonbury this year because they didn't want to do it, because I just felt like I'd done it every year for quite a few years. We'll be back there next year, but so I actually had a week off, which was great. But where you literally this week I think I'll give festival, and then I'm over in Poland at Strada Festival. Beat Herder's coming up the week after, which I can't tell you is, for me, it's my favourite festival in the UK. It's like the perfect size. I think it's 15,000, 20,000 people. It's up in Ribble Valley. The guys that run it are just like, they're just the nicest guys that you'll ever meet. The attention to detail to everything they do. I mean, I have my own festival, Mucky Weekender, which is in September, but I can only aspire to get to where they are. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I just have nothing but love for it. It's incredible. So yeah, I've got that. There's another one in Romania that I love doing called Electric Castle, which is about 150,000 people. It's insane, but it's so good. So the production levels are out of this world. Bald Masters down in Newquay. Looking forward to that. I give Goodney Gathering. I don't know. The list just goes on and on and on.
Well, it's great. It's great to see like the smile on your face, because 2 years ago, COVID, you couldn't do anything. So I see the smile on your face. You're just going, I've got all these festivals to go to. And 2 years ago, there was absolutely nothing. So how was your lockdown? Because I listened to Noel Gallagher the other day, and he just said lockdown wasn't anything really different for him because he was planning his next album anyway. So he was writing anyway. How was it like for you?
Well, I mean, first of all, I was quite lucky in that, most of my life I grew up in West London, but I got married recently, and we moved out to the countryside. So it was quite cool that I live in a tiny little village up in Hertfordshire called Reed, so I could go out for long walks every day. And I think there was a massive thing going into COVID, where I think if COVID hadn't happened, the band might have stopped, because we just did it. It was an unhappy place. It was kind of like we didn't like each other anymore. Do you know what I mean? Which happens to a lot of bands. If you tour like we do for 11 months of the year, it's intense, and to be around everybody all that time, it really does take its toll. So the break for us came at the right time. I mean, yes, it was heartbreaking, and it made you actually reevaluate your life, but it did make you actually realise how much you love doing what you do and how lucky you are to do what you do. So when we finally got back to come back and do it, it was like a whole new, it just felt like, yeah, You know, like I said, if it wasn't for COVID, then we probably wouldn't still exist. But it gave us that love back for what we do, which is being a performer and having the life that we did. It was different. A lot of people really. I'm a patron for a charity called Tonic Music for Mental Health, which is a charity which is all about recovery through music. So most of the time during lockdown, I would never go on, like, you know, a lot of people going on, because a lot of musicians really struggled. They were, you know, we were the first out, same as the hospitality industry. You know, we were the first out and we were the last back. The government told us that we weren't viable. Now that really said, you know, a lot of musicians struggle with their mental health anyway, for one reason or other. I mean, it's been well documented, but I know with a lot of my friends, really struggled through that time mentally, because they felt like they'd lost their whole worth and their whole being. So for me, I the only time I would do any streaming was just all about fundraising for the charity. So it actually gave me a purpose.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, you know, that I was speaking to a lad that books a lot of the acts, and he said, you know, there was a couple of his bands that were coming up, you know, they're gaining momentum, and then COVID hit, and that's it. The band just stopped.
It's just, it was, you know, a lot. I mean, I think that obviously there's a perception that bands make loads of money and, you know, have this fantastic life. The actual reality is far from that. Do you know what I mean? Most bands live hand to mouth. Do you know what I mean? And they have to, and the way, because, you know, music's been so devalued now that, you know, if you stream my album 3 times a day for 3 years, it'd be like one sale. Do you know what I mean? So the return from your actual music itself is quite low these days. It's not like the old days where you were selling millions of albums. So bands have to be on the road now and have to tour to survive. And that just, you know, to have that all taken away from them, most bands were, you know, they just didn't have any money to put food on the table.
Well, it's the same, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the bands, when they're on the road, I mean, touring, they're actually paying.
Yeah, no, I don't think people. Yeah, and I think there's, again, going back to the problem which I just said, which is because of the small sales from the returns from the sales now, that there is a lot more bands that are out on the road at the same time, all competing for the same dollar. Do you know what I mean? Because they have to be touring. So that makes life more difficult. So at any one time you can have like 6, 7, 8 bands playing in the same city that night. Do you know what I mean? All competing for the same thing. And obviously, like, the bigger artists charge such a huge amount for their tickets that that goes down the food chain, and people haven't got the money, especially now with the cost of living crisis, to be spending on the so many different acts and so many different bands. So it's the problem's real, struggle's real.
Any plans to come over to the US?
I've just been. We used to tour the America a hell of a lot pre 9/11, and things were going really well for us. But after 9/11, we came back, and we've never really been able to catch a cold there since. But I've just been in talks now with some friends of mine from Crystal Method. I don't know if you know the group Crystal Method.
Yeah.
So we used to have the same management, and there's a chance that I'm bringing them over to perform my festival next year. And we may be going on tour with them next year. So it's a case of just watching the space and just trying to make it all happen.
Oh, nice one. That'll be good. I mean, you know, Crystal Method are still, you know, big in the scene here. So they're kind of like America's version of, you know, Dust Brothers, Chemical Brothers. I still call them Dust Brothers, you know, because, I mean, Song to the Siren, that was the Dust Brothers. So
yeah, that was my first one, My Mercury Mouth.
Yeah, and absolutely insane record.
Obviously, was listening to that track, which was what got me into the whole break thing in the first place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, my labels back then were Wall of Sound, Skint, Heavenly.
Just there you go.
You
He would
know,
have been a big boy. I mean, that's all the records I used to play. But I used to go around playing all that around America, and it used to go crazy. It used to really, really go off. So I mean, you know, and all those, you know, the Chemical Brothers are still churning out fantastic records. I'm lucky enough to be good friends with Ed and Tom. Norman's killing it. I don't know if you saw his show at Glastonbury. It was amazing. He's not making music anymore, Norman. I think he's struggled since he stopped drinking, because he's now teetotal. I don't think he's made much music. I think he finds it very hard. But his live shows are just off the scale, and the Chemical Brothers live shows are just next level.
yeah.
I remember them in Romania. Actually, they're doing Electric Castle, so I'm looking forward to seeing them again.
Now, Barry, I usually, well, I always ask the musicians that come on your top three like festival acts you would have on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, living or passed away.
Living or passed away. I mean, I love Oasis. I thought they were absolutely, I think they're absolutely brilliant. I think they'll be back next year for the record. I think they're going to reform and do Glastonbury next year. Obviously I love the specials, and if you wanted to go Sunday night, then I would love to see Bob Marley play. Do you know what I mean? If it was present and you wanted to do your Sunday reggae session, but then I've got to have the specials. I mean, it's an impossible question. It's impossible, because I'd love to see the Clash. I never saw the Clash live. The Jam, even though I performed with I can't remember his name now, who does From the Jam. I mean, I would love to. I've seen Paul Weller. I'm a massive Paul Weller fan, but I would love to have seen them do their Jam thing together. Yeah, and then there's so many hip hop artists that I'd love to have seen. Do you know what I mean? I've been lucky enough to see Dre and Beyonce and things like that, but I don't know. I mean, I would just, I could have so many different stages. I have this whole problem anyway, because I have to book my own festival and do this.
Yeah, there's too many amazing artists out there, that just are coming through the door every second. That just,
I mean, Bowie. You can't not have Bowie on your list. You can't not have Prince on your list. You can't.
Queen as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough decision, but Barry, this hour's gone by so quickly, and it's been my absolute pleasure, to get you on. Like I said, I've been into music like most of my life, and I've bought your records and played them out, and it's just amazing to speak to you, and again, a Liverpool supporter, so I've got the best of both worlds, because as we know, football, music, and clobber go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Like I said, you should tap up Flinty from Ragga Twins, because he's got a few things to say about it.
I'm on that 90s rave Facebook group as well. They talk about Ragga Twins constantly. I guess we consider ourselves old farts now. We're like, it's not like the good old days, but you know what? These kids now, it's their turn. They're having fun. That we can have fun as well. So I'm not going to be that old man on the front lawn saying, "Get off my lawn, kids."
I think things have changed as well. I hate to call myself a heritage act, but there seems to, people. There's a lot to be said for the grey pound, and believe me, people of our age are still going out raving. They're still having it, and then all these clubs are full. You Clockwork Orange and things like that, pulling massive crowds. Do you know what I mean? You're seeing all these acts like your old Brandon Blocks and Alex P and Alton 8 and everything. They're smashing it at the moment.
Yeah, and they should be. I mean, you're never too old to get behind the decks or get up live on stage, or even be a raver in the crowd.
No,
keep it going. But Barry, appreciate it, mate. All the best. Please, everyone, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.